Well, welcome out there once again to my program. Always a pleasure to be here, and always a pleasure to have a guest. I have someone who has been involved with the aspects of a casino, gambling. I know the casino industry likes to call it gaming, but we know better. It's gambling. You go to a casino, you play a slot machine, you're taking a gamble. Chances are you're not going to win. So we're going to discuss some of the problems with gambling, some of the allure of going to a casino, and well, we have this proposal in the city of Fall River about a casino in the South End, in the Maplewood area, a very congested area. A lot of people are extremely upset about that. They're worried about congestion, noise, worried about litter. 25,000 cars per day is projected if that casino were ever built. Daily, those cars will be traversing the streets of Fall River. Oh, you've heard, you know, well, they'll take the highway, the roads will be somewhat reconfigured, but don't think that is absolutely going to happen, because people will leave their homes in Fall River and use the side streets to get to the casino. They're not going to go to a highway, because there are no highways to get to from some of the places where they live. So we're going to talk about that a little, but I want to introduce my guest, and Miss Dennison, is that correct? Right. What is your first name?
Shirley.
Shirley.
Thank you for having me.
Well, you're quite welcome. Now, you wrote a letter to the newspaper in regards to casinos. And first of all, let me give the audience an idea of your background.
Okay, well, I was a licensed certified social worker that worked at the Corrigan Mental Health Center for almost 2 decades.
2 decades.
And so I became rather familiar with many of the people and their problems that lived in Fall River.
Did you have people there who were somewhat addicted to gambling?
No, that wasn't a problem that I did not, no.
Yeah.
No.
But you did write a letter, and what prompted you to write a letter?
Well, actually, this is the 3rd go-around for trying to keep casinos out of Fall River. The first one was in 1994, and then there was another one in 1998.
94, where was that?
In Fall River.
No, but where?
On the river.
Oh,
there was
the
talk about a
riverboat.
riverboat.
Yeah,
previously.
they forgot about the winters around here, I think.
And then there was talk about having it in 98 up in the, well, near the old airport, actually, where the industrial park is now.
Yeah, that actually was, the airport was still in existence at the time?
I'm not sure about that. Yeah. I don't think so.
So that was in 1998.
Mm-hmm.
So you've been involved with, you must have known Gus Dennison?
Yes, I did.
Gus was a, you might call a frequent flyer. He had his own show right here in the studio. Uh-huh. And Gus knew the ins and outs of gambling. So you wrote a letter to the Herald News and probably other papers. And what was the gist of your letter?
I guess the gist of the letter was to try to make people aware that it wouldn't be economically wise to have a casino in our community. They usually just don't work out, despite all the great promises about bringing jobs. And jobs, jobs, jobs has been the cry for many years by the proponents of casinos, and it's our cry also, because we're very much concerned about the need for more jobs, especially now when we've had the Depression and the recession and gone for years. But what we differ on is what will ultimately bring about more jobs. They see the casinos as bringing about more jobs, and we say, yes, there will be casino construction, so you will have jobs for construction workers, or whether you were building a complex building or a new hotel or a restaurant or any other large building. Obviously, you've got to have construction workers. And after that, though, we have some casino workers, but usually the pay is minimal. Many of the workers are part-time, and the really high-paying people are not the local people.
Out-of-towners?
Out-of-towners,
Living in
yes.
some fancy suburb?
I imagine so. I don't actually know, but that would be my guess. And so we feel that the jobs they bring would not really be that many and would not be that lasting.
They say the proposal for Fall River, 2,000 jobs as a figure was put out there. Do you think that 2,000 jobs is an accurate estimate?
Well, personally, I doubt it. From what I've read about other locations, they usually greatly overestimate the number of jobs that are going to be available, and especially the types of jobs. But I don't.
$30,000 per person, they were saying, on average.
Well,
Is that a little?
I don't believe it. Based on what I've read about other locations, often the people are making far less than that. For even the car dealers, I have read, again, I have to say I have read this figure, that they make on average about $16,000, which for a family of two really would be considered that they're at the poverty level, and they might qualify for food stamps.
So it's not, job-wise, it's not the bonanza that has been talked about lately by city officials and some of the people who are interested in putting up a casino here in Fall River.
Right.
Now, you have the aspect of jobs, but let's get right to what a casino is about. And I'll let you explain that. We know that it's most people, the casino people call it gaming, but it's really gambling. What is the, as someone who's been in the field dealing with people who have problems, what is the problem with someone going out there and gambling for recreation? Because
Well,
that's what they say.
That's what they say, right. And it works okay for a certain number of people, although once again it's a regressive form of taxation in that usually the people who are the regular ongoing players are people who are from the low income. They're rather desperate, they're hoping to get rich and be able to live the life that they have dreamed about, but it doesn't work that way. And once a person becomes addicted, they will risk everything, whether it's their home, their jobs, and they need to keep playing. And they will do things that ordinarily you wouldn't expect of them. Like, for example, I'm sure that you've probably heard about the well thought of treasurer of a school or a business who's been there for maybe 20 years and everybody thinks she's fine, and then they find out that she's been embezzling money in order to keep on with her addiction. And she probably had no intention of stealing the money. In her mind would be the thought, I'll pay him back as soon as I win.
Borrow the money, but when I make a big hit, I'll put the money back.
And we find that sometimes I've read, again, these are things I read in the paper, they will commit suicide because they're so embarrassed and there's no way of explaining or getting out of it. Now, those are exceptional cases, yes, but there are a lot of problems from people who are addicted and use the rent money or the food money to further their addiction, always with the thought, I'm going to do better for my family. Maybe they're hungry this week, but when I'm rich, I'll be okay.
Now, what, there seems to be an allure that affects many, many people because, I mean, casinos are in business and they attract literally thousands and thousands and thousands of people. So what does a person generally find that gets them to go to the casino to begin with?
Well, I'll tell you, I've been noticing the ads that have been on television this week for a casino in Rhode Island, and the ads, oh, it looks like a wonderful place to be.
Everyone's smiling.
Everybody's smiling, everybody's happy.
Most of the people are winning.
You almost feel like, even I almost feel like going. I wouldn't dream of really doing it, but I'm just saying that's the emotional response.
Family.
It's such a
Bring
happy,
the kids.
such a happy place.
Yeah.
Yes, and of course.
But casinos generally are not like that.
No, they're not.
Casinos are somewhat of a place of almost, I don't want to characterize it so harshly, but a place of despair.
They are, and they're the last place for some people. They really feel that this is their last chance. And one article I was reading that really interested me, this was a reporter for the New York Times had an interview, or not an interview, but a tour of a manufacturing company that made the slot machines.
Oh, yeah.
And he was being given a tour, and he said to the technician that was showing him around, well, do you ever go in casinos and play the machines yourself? He looked at me. He was almost indignant, like I've insulted him. And he said, those casinos, they're for losers. I wouldn't go there. And then he said, now that's off the record.
Oh, yeah.
But he hadn't said that ahead of time.
I see.
And the reporter had not agreed to keep it off the record. So.
Well, that's interesting, because there are people who will say that the machines are somewhat fixed, that the casino is in business to make money.
It is,
That's
of course.
all. They sell no product.
Right.
You play a slot machine either to win or lose, but generally at the end of the day, the casino is going to beat the people who play the slot machines. Is that correct?
Well, obviously, or they wouldn't be in business. Now, of course, there are a few winners, and those winners are usually given great publicity in the newspaper. They don't feature articles about the people that have lost their money very often, unless it's an extreme case. Like now, many of the casinos will allow you to borrow money. And
Against your house?
Against your house, exactly. And they get a lien on the house, and sometimes they foreclose.
Yeah, recently there was a report of a number of foreclosures, upwards of 30 foreclosures. I don't know how accurate, if that was at this point or if that was over a long period of time. Let me ask you this, from a moral point of view. Government officials swear on a constitution, they take an oath to uphold the laws and the Constitution, etc., of the state or the United States of America. And part of their job is to promote the welfare of people, health, morals. Is there a gigantic contradiction in what they, the oath that they swear upon, and then go out and vote to have a casino come to town?
Well, I think there is. It'd be interesting. I like to give the politicians the benefit of the doubt until it's proven that they were doing something for their own self-interest. For example, with the mayor here in Fall River, he probably genuinely believes it's a good thing to have a casino in Fall River. So I'm not going to accuse him of any selfish motive. But I feel that when people were educated about what really happens, they would change their minds. And a lot of people do feel that it's okay, and they think that the number of addicted people is very small. But unfortunately, that is not true. And the slot machines, particularly the new ones, have been very sophisticatedly designed to keep people playing. And both by their physical looks, their dynamics, the sounds of the bells that ring, and they want them to keep on.
It's almost as though the next bet is going to be the big winner.
Exactly. In fact, there was a psychologist by the name of B.F. Skinner who years ago talked about reinforcement and rewards and punishments, and he found out.
Pavlov's theory?
No,
Not
no,
quite.
no. This was a little different than that. I mean, this was a very, well, we'll say very sophisticated interpretation. And what he found was that rewarding a person all the time was not as good as giving them intermittent reinforcements, which were unpredicted in terms of when it would happen. So you'd never know. So you might get 2 wins within 2 throws of the dice, so to speak, and then not get anything for 20, and the person keeps on playing. And one of the things the slot machines have been designed to do is, in many of the cases, they're very sophisticated now, they're different than the old ones, and they are very rapid, and they will reward a person at the beginning several small winnings.
And you don't have to put coins in, so that,
right.
in other words, that's time consuming in the sense.
That's very, exactly.
So you put the card in and just buzz right along.
That's it, exactly. Yes.
Now, let me ask you this. Government officials obviously are in cahoots with people who own or run casinos.
Some of them.
Well, I mean, I don't mean...
Well, they're negotiating, yeah.
Yeah, I don't mean in a negative sense necessarily, but
yeah.
you can't open a casino unless you get the blessing of government, which is a strange thing these days. Because at one time, of course, gambling was strictly illegal. You couldn't even gamble in your own house for money.
Right.
You wanted to play cards with your neighbors in the backyard on a picnic table. You better not have any money on the table because the gambling police might be looking over the hedges. And now gambling is very pervasive. Do you think it's come to the point where government politicians have used gambling as a default position because they can't bring in real good jobs?
That's an interesting idea, not one that I had considered per se. But that reminds me, I don't know whether you probably heard that Warren Tolman has been serving as a director of this fast-tracked game development. And he said that he would resign if he becomes elected as Attorney General, a position he's trying for. And I'm sure he will resign at that point, but I can't help but wonder about his values and his judgment, that he was part of this group that was trying to develop this very fast sports game which would appeal to younger people. And by younger people, he meant between the ages of 18 and 39. Oh,
I see. There's another interesting aspect that has been developing, which is that some schools or even colleges are featuring in some programs the aspects of gambling.
Yes, and
do you think that morally that's really reprehensible?
I think it's very sad what's happening, because young people today certainly have learned that gambling is perfectly okay because they've seen it all around them. It's approved by the state. We have the lottery where at least the money remains in the state where the lottery takes place. It doesn't go to help some billionaire become even richer. And some of these billionaires aren't even Americans. Some of the casinos, the financing comes from Malaysia and other countries far away.
Be an investor from any place.
And it just seems that the money is being taken from the poor people in Fall River to make somebody who's already rich even richer, and that really bothers me.
Well, the person that came to town here in Fall River, Mr. Butera, Scott Butera, he basically said that there would be $60 million in wages. Well, how the calculation came along was that they would be hiring 2,000 people. Average pay would be $30,000. So if you multiply that, it comes to $60 million. But what seems to be neglected, not looked into in detail, is that money has to come out of the community.
Exactly. That was going to be my next point.
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, that's one of the things that's really very sad. People don't realize that this money is being taken from local businesses. And when local businesses fail, people get laid off. And even when what happens is that nearby there will be restaurants and so forth that will close, but further out there will be restaurants and businesses and hair salons and clothing shops, small grocery stores where the business will go down. And so when the business goes down, you lay off your help and you manage it by yourself. This means that there's less taxable revenue for the state. So although the state may be getting a large payment from the casino, they're getting less from the small businesses in the community, because a dollar can only be used once. You can't use it twice. If you're not using it locally and you're going to put it at the casino, then the local businesses suffer. And that's not based just on my opinion. This is what's been loads of research. Both sides have been busy doing research to show what happens. And there's been so many instances. For example, I sort of hesitate to even mention in New Jersey, of course, we've all heard about Atlantic City. In 1977, there were 246 restaurants. 10 years later, that was cut in half. There were 146 restaurants left. And after only 4 years, the retail businesses had declined or gone down 1/3 in their profits.
Gus Dennison used to characterize a casino as a giant vacuum cleaner that only takes in dollars. And there is no return of those dollars, generally speaking, to the community.
Exactly.
Now, as you mentioned, nearby businesses will suffer. That seems to be pretty much a fact, that casino wants to bring people in to eat their pizza. Mm-hmm. It wants them to come in to have the ham sandwich.
Exactly.
And the casino is somewhat subsidized by the gamblers, so they can offer these meals, etc., at a very reasonable price, along with free entertainment. Mm-hmm. So what happens? Mom and pop store a couple of blocks away vanishes. Scratch ticket sales go down. Keno tickets go down because people, like you mentioned, have so much discretionary money, and if they spend $50 in a casino, there's no $50 for the local mom and pop store. Right. Is that pretty much how it?
Yes, that's how it works. And we usually see that there are 4 different phases. I started to explain this. One is when the construction jobs exist, and then there are the employment jobs. But while there's a rise with people working in the casinos, we find that about 40% of those are people who have lost their jobs in small businesses. So
it's just
a shift over there.
Not a creation of new jobs necessarily.
Right, and then in the consequence to local businesses we've mentioned. And then the 4th phase is a drop in the casino revenue, which often happens. What will probably happen if we have that casino in Fall River, at first it will do very well. Everybody will be curious. Everybody who has played elsewhere will come and look at it once, and then it will level off, and then after that the novelty is gone and it's not as great as some other place like Foxwood. They tell me, I haven't played there, but it will just, so they lose their revenue, and then they ask to renegotiate their pilot agreement. By pilot agreement, often what they do is, instead of paying taxes per se, they get an agreement up front with the state that they're going in, that they're going to give them $20 million every year or whatever it is. But then when they're unable to meet that amount, and often that amount is less than what they would have been taxed if they were simply taxed on a straight
on a
revenue basis, but they will ask for it to be changed because you don't want to lose our business, and people begin to realize it wouldn't be good at that point because
Well,
other
then
things.
let me ask you, we're getting down to the end of the program, so if a company came into Fall River, here we are in Fall River, company came into Fall River, is going to create 2,000 jobs, build automobile engines. The tax revenue, you think the tax revenue would be greater if it was a straight business into the city and state as far as taxes?
I think so. I'm not an expert on that, and I haven't studied
Because
that
the host
part.
fees could be lowered over time?
But I think so. But the pilot payments or pilot agreements are usually designed as something for universities and colleges, nonprofit institutes that will make an agreement with the city.
I'm going to make an announcement. I'm going to give you the last word. We got the Friends of Cook Pond Dinner Dance. Once again, that's May 17th. It's going to be held at the VFW Post in Tiverton on Shove Street. Doors are going to open at 6 o'clock. We'll have a nice chicken dinner, and that's all you can eat. And dancing after that. Tickets are $15, and the proceeds are going to stay in Fall River. It's going to help Friends of Cook Pond and Cook Pond in the South End. So, what do you advise people out there? You've got the last word.
Okay. Well, I would like to quote from Steve Wynn, who is a Mirage Resort chairman. He was talking to a group of businessmen in Bridgeport, Connecticut. And this was a good many years ago, and I don't know why he was so straightforward, but anyway, I'll quote him. Get it straight. There is no reason on earth for any of you to expect for more than 1 second that just because there are people coming here that they're going to run into your store or your restaurant or bar. It's illogical to expect that people who didn't come before into Bridgeport, and we'll say into Fall River, will go to your restaurants or your stores when we have facilities in our casino.
So, it's not going to help the local businessman. It's not going to help the tourist industry. People are not going to be taking a walk along the Fall River Boardwalk and enjoying maybe a ice cream.
Exactly.
Well,
it's not
look,
good for tourism.
Not good. Well, look, I really appreciate you being on the program, and
Thank you for having me.
maybe we can have you come back at another time. We'll see if this casino idea, which seems to be ludicrous at the moment, and in a terrible, terrible location, ever comes about, or if this is just another feather in the wind, and it'll be gone as soon as it's come. So thank you out there for watching, and I'll see you next time.